Are you sure you set the camera up right?
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Shivani. I just graduated Cambridge from Jesus College, the same as Ilya, studying HSPS, Human Social Political Science. I'm currently a law conversion student at BPP University.
Great, thank you. I'll just mention that Shivani is my girlfriend, if anyone was wondering. Um, anyway, I'll just start off by saying, tell us a bit about your course.
So HSPS is over 3 years, and in first year it's very broad what your options you can choose. So it's like social science based. It's so you can do politics and international relations, which is what I focus on. There's like sociology, social anthropology. You can even borrow a paper from archaeology. Then in second year you choose a track to specialize in. It can be a single track such as politics and IR, or you can do a joint track, which is sociology and social anthropology, for instance, or sociology and politics. I chose politics and international relations, so the single track. And then in third year, you kind of carry on with that track and you choose more papers. You have the option to do a dissertation, which I also did. There is one compulsory paper in final year, but again, it's like there's still a lot of breadth and choice.
Okay, cool. And which A levels did you do, and which ones do you recommend people do for HSPS?
So I studied 3A2 and I did maths AS. So I did politics, religious studies, and history for my main A2 exams. And I'd really recommend doing humanities if you're applying for HSPS or history or any sort of humanities-based subject, because the skills from like essay writing that you get at A level really carry you through university. And even if you do a science, you're not completely like written out of being able to apply. But I'd suggest if you're doing a science, do a humanities alongside it.
Cool. And what kind of stuff did you write in your personal statement?
Oh gosh, that was many years ago. What did I do? So I focused on applying to Cambridge and focusing on the politics kind of base. It was I chose a current affairs topic that I was really interested in. So I think what mine was, it was to do it was during around Brexit time. So I chose a specific area of kind of this populist sort of uproot and like movement that was happening. So I kind of focused on a specific current affairs issue. Then I focused on me and sort of my achievements and why I thought I'd be a good fit at Cambridge. And sort of my extracurriculars as well, but kind of focusing on why, a particular commercial affairs topic, so kind of why you're interested in the subject at all, and then why you, like, yeah, what can you bring to it, what have you achieved, and kind of how you'd fit nicely with the course.
Cool. And can you tell us what your interview at Cambridge was like?
Sure. So I had two interviews at Jesus. The first one was based more on my personal statement. It was very politics based. It was with two politics professors at Jesus, really lovely, and they interviewed me as on my personal statement, so again about the populist movement. And then before the interview, they'd actually given me an article to read. So it was about 20 minutes, half an hour to read this article before the interview, and then during the interview, there's no sort of set order. Sometimes they can do it before they talk about your personal statement or after. But with me, we spoke about, I think it was my personal statement first, and then we moved on to the article, kind of discussing the article, like, what did you think about it? What's your view? And then one of them would normally take an opposing stance to the argument that I'd give. So to have like some sort of conversation to see how you kind of handle arguments thrown at you under pressure. And then my second interview was sociology based. It was with a sociology professor, and again it was very much focused on that side of the course and my interest in it and sort of how I'd cope with different questions that I necessarily wouldn't have thought of. It was ranging on various topics, and it was just it was very broad, and sometimes they'd give you questions and you wouldn't know really what to say, and that's the whole point. They want to see how you think under pressure, and even if they don't agree with your answer, if you have some sort of thought behind it, they'll try and help you kind of guide your way to some conclusion.
Mm-hmm. Nice. How did you prepare for your interview, and how would you recommend people prepare for the interview?
So preparing for my interview, so when I found out I had the interview, I I focused on my research and reading on current affairs and kind of keeping up to date with that. So I think that'd be my first tip: keeping up with current affairs, reading, even just like going over BBC News, or if you're able to to read some of The Economist or some newspaper, or kind of, yeah, even the FD or something, if you're able to even just glance at the front page, just to kind of keep an idea of what's going on. And then I kind of did a lot of outside reading of my own subjects. So with my politics course, I asked my teacher actually if he had any recommendations of what to read. And because I think in the interview they do want to see that you've read beyond your course. So I think, yeah, trying to find texts that would sort of help and that would kind of supplant your interview, and you'd be able to sort of bring out little nuggets of sort of information and something that's different to maybe what any other candidate would bring. So that'd be my second tip: trying to find sort of literature or books or anything that, or even listening to a podcast, something that's focused on your degree, but outside of your kind of course. And then my third tip would be try to get as much practice as you can, whether it's with a friend, whether it's with a parent, or if you're able to ask a teacher just to organise maybe like a half an hour or even 20-minute chat, just to sort of kind of see what questions they'd give to you and how you'd respond under pressure. And I think, yeah, the more practice you do, definitely the better you become.
Nice. Okay, so I'll just embarrass you a little bit and tell everyone how in your final year at Cambridge you got a first with distinction, which is like top 4 or 5 out of 200. How did you achieve that, and do you have any study tips?
Oh god. Yeah, so for my final year, I had a dissertation paper as one of my papers, and I did spend a lot of time on my diss. And so my diss was, it was on sort of Indian politics, looking at like Hindu nationalism within India. And I was focused a lot of my year, especially in the first 2 terms, very much on my dissertation. Yes, I kept up to speed with my supervision essays and all of that, but my priority was my dissertation. So I think, and that really helped me boost up my overall grade. So I think if you do opt for a dissertation, I think it can really benefit you if you put the work into it. So I think that'd be a tip for final year, trying to do a dissertation in something that you're really passionate in. And with HSPS, you have a lot of flexibility of what you can do your dissertation on. So, and you can kind of, there are so many supervisors and various expertise. And if someone's not specifically in your kind of niche area, they'll have someone who is suitable to supervise you. So yeah, definitely do a dissertation if you can. Then for my other 2, ended up being 3 papers, but not 4 because of coronavirus. So 1 paper actually couldn't be examined on. So for my other 2 papers, it was trying to consolidate after each term. So in December, alongside my kind of doing my dissertation, I'd try and spend some time on going over topics that I'd done throughout the year and throughout my supervision, and trying to do maybe like mind map, some sort of consolidation exercise, and trying to really understand the essays I'd written, kind of what was happening in the lectures and all of that. And then again in Easter term, with the same sort of thing with those topics. And then after I'd done all of that, and I kind of gone through my dissertation as well and handed that in, I really focused on those 2 papers in doing practice essays, so making lots of different structures for different types of questions that could come up, practicing essays under time pressure, and sending them to supervisors, being like, please mark this. Normally they'll say like, okay, please only give us 2 essays per topic or something, because obviously they've got a lot of students to kind of help. But I think if you do ask them, if you have any specific questions, just ask them, they're there to help you. So yeah, it's kind of trying to ask my supervisors as many questions as I could, and have meetings with them as well. And yeah, and just trying to sort of, whilst you're consolidating, making sure you really do understand kind of maybe like a theme that's explored in a specific thinker's topic that maybe was quite confusing, or maybe you can bring something different to it. And doing actually a bit of extra reading, like wider reading, not necessarily like looking at the reading list and kind of saying like, oh, is there some text there that I can maybe look at and bring in something different. And I think for the top marks, they are looking for something that's not necessarily just regurgitating. Of course, yeah, they don't want you to regurgitate the literature itself, but rather than just kind of giving them a bog standard answer of a reply to an essay, they do want to see something that's like different, or kind of maybe you providing your kind of own view at the end of, like, with a little twist at the end of the essay. So I think, yeah, it's just trying to kind of structure your revision in a smart way, which is not necessarily reading every text from, cover to cover, but trying and find bits that are different and incorporate that into their work as well.
Mm. Okay, nice. So getting into Cambridge is a lot of work, and studying at Cambridge is even more work. Would you say it was worth it?
So worth it? Was that the question? Yeah, definitely. I think beyond just this kind of veneer that Cambridge has of it's like so intense, and it is an intense and academically challenging environment. But I think if that's what you want, then definitely like it is something that is very worthwhile. I know with coronavirus it's obviously been very difficult with having that contact with tutors, but in regular times, and it will go back to regular times, I hope, some sort of normality, but having that contact with supervisors and being able to sort of pick their brains in supervision, ask them questions, into the academic side is really interesting, and you have experts from all over the world. But then beyond the academics, like there is a lot to Cambridge that you can do, and that I for myself took part in sort of university sport and in college as well. The college life is so lovely. You really build such a community, and kind of making friends from all walks of life I definitely say it is very much worth it.
Okay, that's great. I've got a few specific questions people asked on Instagram. So one of them is just, what is HSPS and where is the degree used?
So HSPS, as I said at the beginning, the degree name is Human Social Political Science. It's a very broad degree, which is actually why I chose it. It's very flexible in where you can do kind of what routes you can choose. So yeah, you study like in the politics track. I'd study like political thinkers and different themes, and kind of you can bring in sort of. There are modules that you can have like an economic perspective on it. There was you can even borrow papers from economics, from history. You can so as well as the degree being so broad itself, you can also choose other papers from different subjects themselves, different hypotheses, and in terms of where it's used, yeah, honestly, like a variety of fields. You can I've got friends like in banking, consulting. I'm going into law. You've got sort of people going into politics themselves or diplomacy. So honestly, it's like because it's so broad, like the skills you gain from the degree will really help you in whatever career sort of you want to pursue.
Okay, and the next question is, why did you choose HSPS then?
So I was looking around when I was applying to university. I really wanted to do some sort of politics, and when I was looking around, I saw HSPS, and I was reading into it, and I thought it was really broad, and compared to some other university degree courses that were offered, it is really that breadth that I really attracted to. And because I wasn't sort of kind of dead set in university of I just want to do straight politics. It was being able to have that flexibility of choosing and maybe having a look at like sociology or social anthropology. And I just thought they were just really interesting sort of subjects and stuff you can kind of bring into some sort of everyday conversation. But also, yeah, so I think it was the flexibility was the main one as to why I chose HSPS.
And did you get the standard A-star AA offer for A-level?
Yeah, I got the A-star AA offer. Okay,
nice. How do you balance your studies and your private life?
Yeah, time management is very important, especially at a place like Cambridge. And I think for me personally, I was able to do that by having some sort of timetable, some sort of flexibility, building some flexibility within the timetable, but having some sort of structure. Because I know a lot of people, and I've had some friends who've had this, especially with a course like HSPS, which is humanities, so the contact hours in terms of lectures aren't as rigorous as a NATSCI degree, but you do have you still have your various supervisions, and the work is intense, and you're sitting in the library all day writing essays, so you have to kind of build your own timetable around it. And some people might feel a bit lost, and I think the best way to avoid feeling lost is to just honestly have a diary, or honestly have a piece of paper which be Mondays I'll do this, Tuesdays I'll do this. And I think for me timetabling, and when I do my supervision essays, and when I had lacrosse training for instance, or had maybe someone's birthday, something's coming up, I had social events also written in as well, so I kind of had everything on a piece of paper. And I think for me having something I could look at, and then like tick off, be like, I would study, maybe do this particular paper module on this day, and kind of do the reading for that, do the reading for that subject, and then write the essay the next day or something like that. And then maybe being able to tick it off for me was just so satisfying. So kind of having like a timetable honestly really does help. And it does get like some getting used to, and of course like something will happen where you can't do certain things, so be flexible and be kind to yourself, and don't think you have to kind of do everything at lightning speed. So yeah.
Nice. And do you have any other specific study methods or routines?
Other methods, what do I do? I know Ilya's big on Anki, and I have tried that, and I think I might use it a bit more for my current law conversion course. But whilst I was at Cambridge itself, doing lots of essay structures, I really found that helped, rather than sort of having kind of a barrage of information and being like, what do I do with this? Being given so much information and being like, okay, this is what the thinker thinks, but what do I do with it? So I think I'd be trying to find essay questions from past papers, and like looking at how to structure them and kind of use the information and having that structure as my sort of skeleton. And then just sort of reading quite widely, but not necessarily, as I said, not reading cover to cover, but maybe reading the conclusion and seeing what they've said and trying to pull out different bits. And it's working smart as well as hard, but mostly smart.
Okay, that's great. And my final question is, most enjoyable aspect of your degree?
Oh, that's hard. The most enjoyable, I actually have to say my dissertation. I really enjoyed doing it, and I think it was basically because I'd kind of learned the skills throughout my degree, through both years, and again the skills I was also doing in my other courses in my final year. So it was being able to kind of use sort of my skills I'd learned from like my different supervision essays, and kind of doing it and putting it all into something that I was truly interested in, and something that I for myself was like, I do want to research this in much more depth than like another topic. And so I really do think the dissertation is such a great opportunity, and if you do have the chance, like definitely do it.
Okay, great. That's all the questions I have for you. Are there any final remarks or tips you'd like to give?
I'd say when you're studying, and I know applying to university is obviously very stressful, but I think and it's a lot easier said than done, but don't always put so much pressure on yourself in saying, I have to get a certain grade, or I have to be at a certain university. Like, it will come with time and patience, and if you do put the hard work in, like, you'll obviously increase your chances, but then at the end of the day, like, you can't kind of pin all your hopes on one like university, for instance. And I think it's really important to be kind to yourself and just say, like, if you've had a bad exam, for instance, like, and you felt like you worked your hardest, and then you revised, and then you kind of came out of an exam being like, oh my god, that was awful. A, you don't know if it was awful. B, and then if it does turn out to be the grade that you didn't want, honestly, like, try to take a step back. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, but do try and take a step back, and do try and be as kind to yourself as you can. And I think, being patient and being kind and calm with yourself will definitely put you in good stead for any kind of facing any pressurized situation, be it an exam or an interview or anywhere.